at a time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. Yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome. And we are back. It is afternoon tea time. That's right. It is 3 p.m. in Canada here. So wherever you're tuning in from around the world, welcome and grab yourself a cup of tea, grab a coffee, grab your favorite beverage. You do not have to drink tea when you're on Tea Time with Miss Liz. I am joined with an incredible lady that is sitting in the back of the studio here, and she's the executive director of Project Project Cure. That's right. We're going to talk about humanitarian aids this afternoon. So if you have any questions or anything, pop them into the comments. Give the YouTube channel a subscribe, ring the bell. You'll be notified for all the tea times, all that good stuff. So before we get started, we're going to do all the good stuff. We're going to do the disclaimer and bio, and then we're going to jump in. We're going to get Ruth to come in, and we're going to share a good, strong TEA with you this afternoon on humanitarian aids and a lot of other good stuff. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all tea times this year for 2023 are done on Thursday unless they are a rescheduled tea time. So I want to just introduce Ruth by giving a little bit of her bio, and then I'll get you to check out her full bio on Miss Liz's Facebook page. So Ruth G. Sanchez, I hope I'm saying it right. I'll get her to pronounce it. Has extensive 25 years plus in corporate and business development, fundraising events, major gifts, diversity, PMP project management, team training, Six Sigma Green Belt, medical assessments, and ASU nonprofit business management. Prior to joining as the executive director with Project Cure, Ruth has had several leadership positions with American Express for 16 years. Her area of expertise were in credit, fraud operations, risk management, and business partner leader, supporting multiple national corporations with large-scale credit card programs and launched new credit card programs in partnership with Amex Marketing. Ruth was awarded during her tenure with Top Honors Chairman Award for Excellence and Great Citizen Award for nonprofit work. In the following her passion to serve children with special needs, Ruth managed development teams supporting Special Olympics chapter in Arizona, Northern California, and Nevada, successfully raising over $8 million. Ruth is currently the executive director of Projectc.u in the Tampa chapter. She brings a high level of excellency, leadership, business, and passion to the Projectc.u, and is focused on supporting international humanitarian work in providing medical equipment and supplies to over 135 countries. Her leadership role is engage local community members and leaders in serving as volunteers, donors, and pro, partners. During her first year at Projectc.u, Ruth was able to ship 40 feet containers to countries in Africa and Central America. She is currently supporting 36 container projects, two for Ukraine, with a goal to raise 1.7 million. For Ruth's full bio, you can check out Miss Liz's Facebook page. So let me get Ruth in here and let's talk about all this incredible work that she's doing. And for all the young ladies out there that might want to get into what Ruth has done in her lifetime. So welcome, Ruth. It is an honor to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So Ruth, can you tell us a little bit on how it all got started from the little girl to where you are today?
Oh my goodness. That's a really good question. I do remember my parents had a subscription to National Geographic, and and again, leafing through the pages, I was asking my mom some questions on little children in Africa that had their stomachs distended because of malnutrition. And I remember asking my mom that why were their stomachs really out? And it was a learning moment for my mom, but she didn't really have the answer. She said, "This is why you need to eat your food because children are starving in Africa." And it made me think as I grew, that humanitarian heart that I basically grew into as a young girl into adulthood, and that just never left my heart in serving the community and internationally as well. Even though I was working at American Express, I've always maintained that curiosity.
So by asking those questions and doing some research, it got you into this role that you're doing today, right?
It did.
So what message would you have for the young girls out there that are looking to look into humanitarian aid? Because we don't speak about humanitarian aid very much today in this world.
I agree. The word humanitarian means a lot of different things to different people, but I want to really simplify it because it used to be a daunting word like, can I ever be a humanitarian? How would that look like? And it's very simple. Um, it's reaching out to communities and helping them in multiple ways um, of achieving their goals. So the answer to the first question, and I'm sorry I skipped over it, is I would always encourage anyone, whether a boy or a girl, is if you have a dream and and it seems like a big dream, follow it, whatever they may be. I found that I did follow my heart, but I also went to corporate America, never ever letting go of that dream. I knew that journey that I was on would lead me to that, and it did. And so, even at corporate America, I was always engaged in volunteer work because most big companies have it in their mission to support society and the needs of the community. And so, I engaged in volunteering for homeless shelters. I engaged with, you know, um, Special Olympics, which was raising funds and awareness for individuals with intellectual disability and letting them and allowing them to realize their dreams. And the world of sports, it's kind of an even playing field, and it encouraged it's very encouraging to the Special Olympic athletes to gain that confidence, to go out into the world, to find jobs. And it also helped that, my oldest son has special needs, and he is engaged with Special Olympics, and he's full-time employed. He went and did some, educational trade learning. And so I, with what I'm trying to say is find opportunities to help, your local community nonprofits. Because as much as I did a lot of different work in the field of nonprofit, it led me to what I do today, and that's helping international communities that are really in need of relief. And that looks like supplies for clinics, medical equipment for hospitals, and I've even gone to Africa to see and to tour the hospitals, um, to confirm, okay, this is really what you need. And as an assessor as well, I look to see of what they need and that they didn't realize they need. So I'm that second pair of eyes, because our partners know what they need and
Yeah.
doctors know what they need. But sometimes it takes an outsider to say, did you ever think of this? Oh, I didn't know that you provided that. Yes, we do. So it's a long answer to a short question, but I hope I answered it.
Oh no, you did well. I want to. You mentioned Special Olympics, and you mentioned your son, and I'm guessing that's why you got into the passion of getting involved with Special Olympics because of your son, correct?
Well, that's true. But also at American Express, it was like the early 1990s where there was a big push for allowing employees to go and participate with nonprofits, and they would fund you. I believe it was if you did 200 hours, like I was a volunteer broadcaster for Sun Sounds of Arizona, and that's for to do radio programs that go to anyone with a sight disability. And so not only would they encourage us, they also would, for I think for 200 hours, it was a $2,000 max
Oh,
gift to the nonprofit. So in a way, my little 5-year-old humanitarian heart was still being fed,
yeah.
the dream, while working at the corporate America, in my career with corporate America. So, it's always good to understand how there is a social responsibility with big companies that they give back. And I was able to do that, even though it really wasn't full time for my work that I do now in the nonprofit. It basically supported and financially supported the nonprofits that I was interested in. So, and Special Olympics is near and dear to my heart.
So we have a question here for you, Ruth. How did you find out? How did you find out in the big companies how to get involved in the projects, different projects that they had?
So it was a big initiative at American Express in the 90s. I don't know what that looks like now, but what some of the departments that you want to really knock on their door is HR. Um, Most companies have an employee department where they're engaged with nonprofits. So it's either like an employee satisfaction, it could be a diversity team, it could be different departments that really focus on providing opportunities to the company. But I would start probably with your direct manager or the top leader in the organization. And then if you do and they don't, that might be a suggestion that, hey, listen, I think that there are others that want to volunteer, and is there a list of your top 20 charities that you really want to support, like the Mary's Food Bank, St. Mary's Food Bank. There's a lot like the Phoenix Mission, which is serving homelessness. um, and get them to start thinking of providing that as an opportunity.
Well, that's and that's a good way of understanding if your business is actually supporting other businesses, right, and other charities in the community. You know, now is there a place that you can go in, like in the United States? I'm in Canada. Is there a place that you can find how to volunteer for different charities and that? Is there
Uh,
any location for that?
yeah, you know what I would, so before um, this initiative hit American Express, I was already volunteering for Sun Sounds of Arizona. So what I did as an individual, I would say, top 20 nonprofits, that have the ratings, the high ratings, that have the Forbes, the navigation guide. So you want to look for those. I know that we're in the top ratings for nonprofits, and so this popped up, and I already knew about Project Cure, but I wasn't there yet, and they weren't looking for um, an executive director. So I would do that. I would just go download, look to see which are the top 20, and then go to those websites. Most of nonprofit websites have volunteer, um, opportunities in their list of menu, and just click on. And most of them also have where you can apply to be a volunteer. And of course, here at Project Cure, we're volunteer driven. So nobody ever gets a no. We always, all nonprofits are always looking for volunteers to come and help. And one other thing, what we did at American Express, we would select, because they had a booklet of all of the nonprofits that they were partnering with. And as a team or as a department, we would select which one we wanted to do, like a team builder. And so here, as the executive director here in nonprofit, and if anyone is listening to this and you're in Arizona, you certainly can go to our website and look for those volunteers, because we've got, I think, 20 companies that are in our warehouse, and they're doing anything from sorting supplies. They're loading 40-foot containers that are destined to go to Ethiopia, Somalia, and countries like that. So yeah, if you do a little research, there's so much information on the web.
So we have another question here for you, Ruth. What is the benefits of volunteering?
Oh my goodness. So I consider myself a lifetime volunteer, and you know, everyone has like hobbies or things they want to do, like to do. You have your job, you're focused on that. But I found out pretty early in my world of career was when you do something for someone that may never thank you or understand who you are and what you did for them, regardless of that, you walk away with a feeling that no amount of money could ever give you. And, when I would read, like, my program on Sun Sounds of Arizona was on angels, and I was the producer, the editor, and I rarely ever edited. I would select different kinds of media to read from, and when I would put these stories together, or I would be so proud that this is going to go out to those that can't pick up a book and read, or have difficulty reading. And actually, my sister-in-law years ago was in the hospital giving birth to my niece, and they were playing my program. And I to get even letters that people say thank you, and they don't know who you are. They just said, your voice is calming, thank you for selecting the stories, it gave me inspiration. And so volunteers come in, they come in as individuals, they come in as a company, they come from churches, rotaries, Tempe sister cities, Kiwanis, And they all walk away like, I want to do more. And, just to let them know, this could go to any of the countries we serve, which is 135, and we ship 200 containers every year, to know that you just sorted and you packed that into a box for people who don't have that. They don't have the luxury of having, what we have available in hospitals and clinics here. So it's just a feeling of gratification, and that you just did something for somebody you may never meet, but that they're going to reap the benefits and the reward of your volunteer hours.
So, Ruth, is that how you got into Project Cure, by volunteering?
I actually got into, so I had left American Express and looking for opportunities to to get into the nonprofit world. I took a sabbatical because 16 years was, to me, great. It was the best company, but I was looking for more. I was looking to really help humanity. And I took a sabbatical. I met one of our board members, Jeannie Lewis, at a church. And so we were talking, and I understood that she went to countries on behalf of Project Cure to do assessments. And I go, I I've been looking for someone like you to mentor me, because you're talking about work that I'm interested in doing. And so she led me to a couple of other nonprofits, but that is how I entered the world of nonprofit. But I was already engaged as a volunteer, 30 some years ago, before Project Cure. But I did learn about Project Cure from her, and I did bring a group during my sabbatical, because I was mentoring a gospel a band, and I said, let's do something for people all over the world. And so I enjoyed it, and I had that was my connection with Project Cure. 20 years later, I ended up as the executive director.
So, we have another question here for you, Ruth. Do you feel that it's deeply important to get a mentor before getting into the positions?
Um, I think it's helpful if that mentor has that knowledge and experience. I think it's helpful. I I didn't have a mentor. I was self-driven for local chapters of nonprofit, the Leukemia and Lymphoma, Sun Sounds, um, the St. Mary's Food Bank. And so I was learning a lot about nonprofit through my volunteer work. And they were nonprofits that were near and dear to my heart. And then, you know, I I did have another job before this. I was Hope for Kids, and I did get that mentor. He was the executive director of Hope for Kids, and they did travel to 7 countries. And I actually went to Uganda my first 3 months being there. I was employed there. So I think it's helpful, but it should not stop you.
So, you're saying that they can do it if they're self-driven, right?
Yeah, you do research. There are other nonprofits in the US that have a focus, an international focus. Um, by volunteering there, I would volunteer there just to see if that's within your mission, your self mission, and then get to know the staff, and reach out to them and ask if they'd like to mentor you. Um, but yeah, getting hands on is a good way to start.
So, we have a question here. So, what is Project Cure?
Yeah, so our Project Cure, CURE, is an acronym for, and I always forget, so I wrote it down, is Commission on Urgent Relief and Equipment. And that really kind of just quickly summarizes what we do. But I'll expand, because it's work that we do with partners either in the United States or abroad. And what our focus is that we get to meet partners, either existing or new, that come with the need. And the need is really focused on medical equipment and supplies. And when I first started, um, the executive director that was leaving the position gave me a list of projects, and one of them was to Tanzania. And I met with all of my partners, or made a phone call if they were in Africa or Central America or South America. And she had told me that they were struggling because every project there's fundraising involved. Um, what we do is we procure medical equipment and supplies from surrounding hospitals, manufacturers, clinics. We procure biomedical equipment, and the simple explanation of what is biomedical is you plug it in. And supplies. So the supplies can be syringes, um, you know, gowns like the PPE gowns, mask, band-aids, wrapping, and other items that you would find again in any medical facility here in the United States. So we procure that. Now with partners, so I'm going to just share a little bit about my Tanzania partner. He really couldn't raise money, and whatever goes in that container that we find their need is donated to the partner's medical facility.
Oh,
Nothing inside of that container, which could be a value between $250,000 to 750,000, because you're
wow.
talking biomed, you're talking ultrasounds, you're talking X-rays, ICU beds, examination tables, and so he couldn't raise the funds to ship the container. So everything inside, we donate it because it's donated to us. What we have to recoup are like the rental of the container, the expense of having staff, put that all together. And so containers can be any for the recouping can be anywhere between 15,000 to 22,000. But
Wow.
he couldn't raise that to ship his container. And so the executive director before me, she's like, cancel it. Um, I don't believe in ever saying no or cancel it. I just don't, because there is a need, right?
Yep.
And the need's not going to go away. I mean, I don't shut the door. I just can't.
Well, if you
Uh,
shut the door, you're not really solving anything,
no,
right?
we're not. And we're not serving our mission and the people who need what we can provide to them. And so I met with him, over breakfast. This was like 4 years ago and a little bit more. I had breakfast with him, and I shared, the feedback that was given to me. And he said, please do not cancel my container. And I said, yeah, I wasn't going to. And the need that he had, he's actually an American who lives in Tanzania. He created um, a nonprofit that serves um, girls and women who are ostracized from their villages because they don't allow uh, the mutilation, the genitalia mutilation custom.
Yep.
And so he has a compound that provides food, education, and then of course health needs. So we we got to working, we raised the funds, but here's the interesting thing: it was stalled for a minute because he had issues with the government. So he ended up moving his compound, building a new medical hospital, and we got it shipped. Now it just landed, um, I think, late last year,
Oh, wow.
and I was so proud of that moment because I started here in 2018. I was told cancel it. He's like, please don't. the need's not going to go away, and it didn't. And with the extra time, he was able to do everything he needed to do to move the compound and build a new hospital, and it landed. And so um, that's what we do. Nothing is ever simple, but nothing that is profound is ever simple. That's how I think. And so we are, we're patient. We work around, a stopgap. I don't like saying no. I even told my boss, I don't feel comfortable saying no. What happens to the little girls, right?
Yeah.
And they had to walk 2 hours to get, a shot. And I don't think that's right. No 10-year-old should be walking on a dirt road, to go get medical help.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to have you on Tea Time to explain to people how much patience it takes to be a humanitarian, right? Because many people, well, I want instant answers, I want instant solutions. Sometimes it does take time, like you said, 4.5 years, and it just landed last year. It takes time, you got to go through the steps, but the reward that you feel inside that it finally landed, that you finally got it over there. I can just imagine how you felt, Ruth.
Y- y- So that's a really good question because I have a personality. Let's get this done.
Yep.
And I learned really quickly that my patients had to grow in this position. And what it now turns into easily, because I don't get impatient anymore, because I understand the work, is to never lose hope and never allow to convey to an in country partner to lose hope. And sometimes I find it that I'm not having to manage my patients, I have to help manage the in country partners level of patience. And but you're right. So another container, and I love giving these examples, so please bear with me.
Oh, no,
Um,
no. My audience is here to listen, and they really appreciate getting the honesty, right? Because if we don't know, how do we fix it? How do we make solutions? You know?
yeah, and how do you encounter, I'm in my late 50s, so I've had a lot of experience. And I wish somebody would have told me some of the things that I now know. And so I'm more than happy to share. So again, this was like within 3 months of being in this position. And I have a board member that was very moved by a video she saw of the Rohingya um, tribe that was experiencing genocide in Myanmar. And so they were fleeing, and they were fleeing to Bangladesh. Well, we had not done a Bangladesh um, container for a couple of years. And headquarters was saying, well, ask the board member if they're willing to move it to the container to Mexico. Me being brand new, I took the advice and I shared it with the board member, and she started crying. And that's when I knew it was not going to go to Mexico. It was going to go to Bangladesh. And I said, stop your tears. We're going to send this to Bangladesh, and we're going to send it to the Rohingya. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. And so about a couple of weeks later, my boss, the CEO, Dr. Doug Jackson, sent me an email from a com- sent me an email from one of his partners that, he's thanking Doug for, speaking at their conference. And oh, by the way, Doug, let me know if you have any work in Bangladesh, because I just gave a tour to the actress Angelina Jolie. And Doug sent it over and he goes, I think this is for you. And so I reached out and I said, we need a consignee. So every project needs a consignee, which is the in-country partner that is responsible to release the container and take responsibility in making sure the medical equipment and supplies get to the facility. So I reached out to him and I said, this is what the issue is. We can't find a consignee to accept this container, a disaster relief container, um, for the Rohingya. And he said, I'm going to connect you to one of my contacts. And he is the Bangladesh general. So he was the general of the Bangladesh army,
Wow.
General Sadiqi. And so he's like, give him a call. And I did. And he was very responsive. And he said, I'm going to transfer you, and you need to reach out to my lieutenant. And I'm going to tell my lieutenant to do what you say needs to be done for this container. So the Bangladesh government had secured the army around that remote mountain where the Rohingya were, women, children, senior citizens, men, who all needed to still have medical care. And I talked to the lieutenant. 3 months later, it was being marched from, well, being driven, but I always say marched from the port to that mountain. So when you talk about patience, you know, um, there's always, I think, hope. I have to do your research or follow up, and a little faith. Um, that all mixes in with what I do and what we do here, and relying on each other to never lose hope. And Mary, to this day, my board member, she actually met Dr. Mahmood recently, and she continues to support Bangladesh, especially those hospitals along the border of Myanmar and Bangladesh.
Well, I want to really thank you, Ruth, for sharing all of these different countries because a lot of people don't realize what's going on in other countries, right? They're so focused on their home country that they live in, and there's a lot of what am I looking for? A lot of inhuman activity that's being done to people in other countries, and they don't have the resources that we have in Canada and the United States and that as well. So for you to do all of the work that you're doing with 135 different countries, some countries that many of the listeners probably haven't even known about or heard about, uh, you know, and you're working with all of these different individuals and different traditions and policies and all of the government laws and all of that. So that's a lot of stress. So how do you handle that, Ruth?
Um, so we have a great group here at Projectc.u, and that includes 7 chapters. We're in Denver, which is our headquarters, obviously, Arizona, Texas, Chicago, um, Kansas City, Nashville, and Philadelphia. And why I say, that we're really across the United States is always that sense that we're not doing this alone, that we're doing this together. And everyone is always reaching across state, borders to help, either with stress or, sometimes venting, can be helpful as long as there's a solution at the end of that vent. Um, and, you should have also a balanced life. And I'm considered a workaholic, but with this job, and I finally grown into having a balance, is if I don't handle my stress, I can make myself sick. And I'm not any good to anyone sick. So I really have learned to put up the boundaries so that Saturday and Sunday is my time with my family, And whether it's, getting together for parties or doing nothing, you got to really take care of your health, and know how to, techniques. Um, and sometimes now and then I'll talk to a therapist, just because you're right, our work is very critical. And I've been to places like Nigeria where it's very hard to see um, the suffering.
Mhm.
And, my mother passed away here a few years ago, and her last days were full of dignity, at hospice, and she was treated amazingly so by hospice workers. And I go to Nigeria and I go to a hospital that there's a gentleman dying in a room by himself.
Wow.
And he's emaciated, he's alone, there's broken windows, there's no comfort, there's no water, and I see his eyes. And they said he's dying. And I felt that, where is the dignity? And so I see a lot of that. And then I see a lot of children that look at me with those eyes of hope, right? They're children. And what I find, um, you use the word inhuman. I don't necessarily think they're making that effort to be inhumane, but I think it's more of not having the resources. And so if you were to put, you know, poverty stricken countries versus America, I think sometimes as an American, we're shielded from this,
Yeah.
and we kind of take it for granted, not knowing we're taking it for granted because we don't know this life.
Yep.
And I come back so appreciative of what I have, what my family, my grandbaby, versus. But I also come back with, and one of my peers from another nonprofit, because I feel injustice. I feel like there's no justice here. Like what's being done by the local government? And people have always said, "My goodness gracious, you kind of get a little fire under you." And I'm like, "Well,
Little
I
firecracker.
yeah, and I've always been told that." So I'm very passionate, and my passion comes out. But the executive director of Molly's Foundation, Craig Studerman, said, "You know what, Ruth? That's your passion, and that's who you are." He goes, "I call that justifiable indignation." So I have this indignation of, why is this happening? And and then I stop, and I I don't blame. I actually say, okay, now I need to do something.
Yep.
I need to come back, and I need to speak to them. So I have donors, and I speak to the donors asking, for, I don't know if you can see that poster behind me.
Yep.
I speak for her and her baby. I am on that platform because they don't have a platform. Nobody's going to listen. So to me, I become their voice. I share their journey, and we make things happen, because then it appeals to people's, I think, heart, and to their conscience. They start feeling like, I got to do something. You can't unhear or unsee what you've seen. And that's what, yeah, that's what gets me through the day. It gets me. I'm able to sleep at night.
I think it's a good time to ask you, Ruth, what would your T be if I gave you the letters TEA? What words would you give me?
So thank you for that. The acronym would spell out to me. T would be taking action. A dream is just a dream if you never take action. It will never become reality. So take action and whatever you focus on. Um, E is for excellence. Um, in all we do. So I put myself as, I don't know any of the patients, but they're human and they deserve their dignity and their health. That's one of the things you can't put enough of a value on is time and health. And so that's doing the excellence in what we do and making sure you get back to everyone. You respond to emails, you do your research, you really have to listen. I've never been in a job where my listening skills have increased 100-fold. And it's because it's so critical. They're not telling me about the sale at, Macy's. They're telling you my two parents died in the same hospital that I was born at, and they died so prematurely. That's Cameroon. And then A is, attitude, attitude. It's a can do attitude. Um, you could be having a bad day, but your bad day is never going to be what your partner's bad day is. And so it seems like I've shrunken my need and my day with an attitude of how can I help you? How can we make this happen? Who can I contact? How can we do a fundraiser? Doing that despite of anything else. So your attitude is like 120% necessary to do the work that we do.
Well, and that's an awesome strong tea that you just served us. And again, all of my guests, their teas are always different, and it comes within. You know, I, if we really want to make a difference in life, we really just got to serve within ourselves. Feed what feeds that hunger. Like you said right at the beginning of the show, Ruth. If you have a dream, no matter how big it is, just go for it. If you don't try, you don't know, right? And it's okay to fail, it's okay to fall, because if you don't fall, you don't fail. You don't know how to get back up, you don't know how that resilience of coming back and trying again. I really want to thank you, Ruth, for sharing that strong tea. I also asked all of my guests, what their favorite color is in one word to describe themselves. And Ruth, you gave me the color yellow. Why yellow?
Oh, oh my goodness. I was about 10, and I love all the colors, right? Except gray. I'm not a gray person, but I love all colors. And I remember a field trip. We went to a museum in Glendale, and there was this painting, and it was a painting of fall, and the trees had a lot of yellow in it. So, I learned that the yellowing means, you know, death, and that,
Oh,
spring would bring back the green.
oh,
So the color yellow meant more to me than the other color, not because of death, but because it was fall,
yeah.
and and there was beauty in the colors, and I found it to be so beautiful. And then we took a vote at the end of the field trip, and I just really went on and on and on about the color yellow, the painting, what it signified, and we took a vote, and I ended up getting five classmates to vote for that because of the color yellow. And I think it's because it's bright, it's sunny. You really can't be around yellow and feel down. It's a color that appeals to me.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And the one word that you gave me is humanitarian, and we all know why you're a humanitarian, because the heart is there, the passion is there. But if you want to get a little bit more into why that word describes you the best.
Um, so in working in different nonprofits, like I worked a little with leukemia and lymphoma, Hope for Kids, Special Olympics, and now with Project Cure, I found that I can't go back to corporate America. And even though I was helping communities with our American Express credit card, I felt that I really needed my life to have a lot of meaning. And there's a reason why I do what I do. And helping humans, helping my human kind brothers and sisters that I may never meet. Um, you know, I have a focus on helping the homeless. Because, we also need to make sure we're taking care of, our brothers and sisters here in the United States.
Yeah.
And so that's the only word I could think of was humanitarian, because I could do a lot of different work, and I have, but the most meaningful, and the day that is my last day on earth is not going to be about other things other than helping the people of today, the people of the future, and even Special Olympics. I did some programs in Northern California that were placed into perpetuity, and I I took that as my legacy, that I'm not just helping right now, I'm helping the future. Um, Children that are our future, and maybe their children's children's children. And just knowing that I had a part in that, it makes me want to cry.
So we have a question here, and I want to get some final words from you. Our hour is just flying by, like no
No.
tomorrow, right? The flower time just flies sometimes when you're really enjoying yourself and enjoying the conversation. How can people get involved with Project Cure, and where's the best way to go about getting involved with Project Cure?
Yeah. And so projectcure.org it has my information. It has Sun Hudashell. She's the operations director, and you can serve as an intern. You can serve as a volunteer. Also have our ambassador boards. Um, if you're wanting to get further, deeper into the mission, you can join as an ambassador board. You can get even deeper information on what we're doing across the organization. There's so many ways. There's cure kits, there's clinics where we really like to recruit medical resources from the United States to go help in different countries. And so I would start with um, the website.
And do you have any events that are coming up that people can take part in?
Yes, there are events that we have. One is a third party event, it's casino night, and it's on our website. There's also a Cooking for a Cause, which is in Scottsdale. It is at the Lings Walk Shop. And for all of April, that every blackened chicken and pork dish, um, anyone who orders that, what they pay for it, we get back as a donation. So
Oh, well,
link,
that's nice.
I know, I love that. We just had a really good event in February. So I would say if you go to Project Cure and click on the Phoenix site, you will see information there. And if you want to just come and meet with me or take a tour, we have a microchip donated warehouse here on the microchip campus. It's 40,000 square feet of medical supplies and equipment. It's two-story. Thank goodness they donate this space for us. If you want to bring in a group or come in and take a warehouse tour, I'm more than happy. It's one of the funnest parts of my job is to show off what we do here.
I think that's really nice that you have those tours as well, because people get to see, right? That it's not just an office, it's not just, you can actually see the work and see the accomplishments that are being done.
Yeah, I work in a warehouse. I get to see the 40-foot shipments leaving our dock. I
Oh,
get to
wow.
see all the blood, sweat, and tears of volunteers and interns and corporations load these containers, and they walk away just, like, we want to do this again, and I'm like, well, sign up. We're always looking for volunteers.
So if anybody wanted to come in from like Canada or like another country and help with Project Cure, are they able to do that?
Absolutely. So I have a lot of dignitaries and guests that come in from all over the world. And as long as I know, like dates and times, we'll roll out the red carpet. I had here the former vice president of Liberia, and he looked at some beds that we had and he goes, "These belong to me." I said, "Well, first come, first serve, sir." And so yes, it probably would take more like a 2 hour tour, kind of like Gilligan's Island, and we would have some snacks, and we have board members that would, welcome that group or an individual. So yes, you just come on over. I've had guests from Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. I mean, all over.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's also opening arms, right? Of welcoming people and saying, "Hey, come and see what we do, Come see firsthand how it's processed and how the shipping containers." It's really amazing what you do, Ruth. And I really want to thank you for giving back to others, as a humanitarian, sometimes just a thank you is a lot, you
Thank
know.
you. That means a lot to me. It really, really does. And this was fun. This was
well,
fun, Liz. Thank you so much.
well, it was an honor having you here, Ruth. So any final words before we wrap up your tea time?
Yeah, just thank you to everyone who um, gave me questions and um, for, taking the time to hear about, things that are going on around the world. My family has always asked me, "What are you doing now?" And I go, "Just turn on uh, international news and you will know where we're at." Like Malawi with the earthquake, Turkey and Syria with the earthquake, Ukraine, where, we're probably going to be doing work in Ukraine for the next 10 years. So thank you for opening up your worlds for things that you can get involved in.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all the viewers and supporters. Like Ruth said, without you guys here, we can't make a difference. We have to do this together. I don't serve an empty cup of tea. I serve a cup of tea with everyone. So, and if you're watching a replay, put in where you're tuning in from, because I always like to hear where you're tuning in from. And share this tea time. If you know a loved one or somebody who's into humanitarian aid and services and they're looking for a project to get involved in and they can get involved with Project Cure, you share it with them. A little share goes a long way. Word of mouth goes a long way. So that's what these tea times are all about, is just getting the message out there, getting the awareness out there, and sharing some really good strong cup of individual flavorful teas of humans, not the beverage. So you don't need to drink tea on tea time. So I want to really thank you, Ruth, for sitting with me and sharing about Project Cure. It really is an honor to know about all the incredible foundations that you also mentioned, Hope for Kids, Molly's Foundation. These are incredible organizations that everyone can check out, get involved in your community and really serve for others, because volunteering does give you a reward that is unexplainable. The abundance of volunteering is magical. I highly encourage everyone to get out there and volunteering. So I will be back tonight at 7 p.m. for the last tea time of this week with Irana Alano. I hope I'm saying her last name right. She's coming in and she'll be talking about foster care and adoptions. So we're going to talk about the situation that's going on in Australia, where there's over 4,000 children that are staying in motels because they have no homes. So we're going to be bringing some awareness to that as well. So again, thank you for tuning in and thank you for all your support. And check out these tea times. They are different tea times, different flavors. And again, I want to put out a special shout out to Jacqueline Zakola. Check her out, Arizona Networking Director. She has an incredible platform. She has incredible women. And she is helping me bring these incredible women to the table to serve you a strong cup of tea. So, again, thank you, Jacqueline, for that. And thank you, Ruth, for tuning in. Don't leave. I'm just going to wrap up the live show, and I'll get everything sipped over to you. But I want to say a final goodbye behind on this. So,
Thank you.
for everyone, I'll see you at 7 p.m. for the last tea time of this week.